into one paper?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about, well, I'm not sure if you know what the old teacher licensure portfolio looked like. Anyway, the task stream portfolio at the end is 6 complete projects, and you will take all of your APTEL A, B, C, D, E, jam them back together and load it up as one document. That's when the real numbers count, and the numbers will be crunched as far as proficiency on your portfolio. You will also add a descriptor, something about the evidence, telling how you've worked with others or addressing the descriptor rubric. You can, if you go down in task stream to the bottom of any of the evidence, if you click on that, you can preview it and see the form that I'm talking about. But yes, to answer your question shortly, Tammy, you are going to have to put them all back together.
Okay.
Dr. Palermo, I have a question about this week's assignment,
Yes.
the APTEL D.
Yes.
And just kind of walking through that, is it basically I've identified the things that on the survey that make, my principal and I looked at, he said anything 80% or less, just identify those.
Sure, that's a good place to go.
So what I'm going to do is identify those, maybe make long-term and short-term recommendations. In this part, is that the gist of this artifact? And then next week I do the action plan for these recommendations. I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure. Somewhere between B and C, you should have data, and you're reporting that you do have that. You shared it with your principal. 80% is what he wanted to identify as the opportunities for empowerment. That's part D, right?
Yes.
Yes. So then, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, you do want to do or try to write an action plan that will align with your principal's goals, the leadership of the school's goals. So if he suggests a couple of those items that are less than 80%, those are the goals that you'll address in your action plan E. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I need to load an action plan in the discussion or so folks can see it. In school improvement or in some of your other projects, you've done an action plan. It's nothing more than a table with 4 or 5 columns saying what goal, what activity, who's responsible, when, and how you're going to assess it. It's nothing fancy, but it's the kind of thing that you probably for school improvement plans.
Also, in looking ahead to the testing plan, I was part of that, and our testing plan, it gives like the room number, what test is going to. So am I just, I know I can't put the students in there or anything, or the accommodations. So I'm thinking it's just a template I'm submitting for the testing.
Sure,
Okay.
or black out those columns that the room numbers and the stuff you don't want us to see. Just primarily the date and the test, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to see that you understood all the different assessments that are given in the course of a year, and that somebody has to organize that so that we're not giving 2 tests on the same day.
Okay. I had to do that this year, so great.
Yeah, you understand the problem.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Who's next? What other questions do y'all have?
Everybody hanging out.
Let me talk a little bit about the SciApp, and then maybe that will raise some questions too. Soon, y'all will be wrapping up the action plan for the APTEL, and then there are a couple of other projects to do. Well, this SciApp, A and B, is the school improvement action plan, and I hope if you're involved in school improvement at your school that you have access to the kinds of data that are required for SciApp A and B. I know well, some folks aren't going to want to hear about what happens in Wake County, but as I was a principal there, we had to gather this kind of data, exactly this kind of data, when we were writing our school improvement plans. So if your school or district is like Wake, they have a school improvement process and they require certain data be involved in writing the new plan, like attendance data, discipline data, standardized test results, think EOGs, EOCs, benchmark test results, and any other data. So that's the kind of stuff that school improvement teams are usually gathering. If you're not on the team, then you need to get with a team member or find somebody who is the gatekeeper, who has access to that data at your school. Then part B is disaggregating that data. Well, most school improvement data, a lot of, at least all the EOC, EOG data comes back disaggregated by subgroups. So you're not going to have to do a lot of work if you're gathering the information from a school improvement team member, because it's already been done. So find someone, gather this data together. It says to lead a professional team of educators. If you're on the school improvement leadership team, that works for me. If you have a data team that you're working with, a PLC, great. If you have 2 or 3 other professional colleagues you can pull together to look at this data together, fine. And again, if you're involved at all in the school improvement leadership team, don't reinvent the wheel. Don't have a meeting that's already been had, but use the data that has been generated by your school improvement leadership team to write your SIAP A and B. It'd be perfect if you were writing it with someone else, but if you're writing this in isolation based on data you've gleaned from the school improvement team, that works for me. Scott, do you have a question or?
I have a question.
Hello, Mr. Wilkins.
How are you?
Good.
My hero.
This past year, I was between 2 schools, and I was doing all of my artifacts on one school.
Uh-huh.
And due to the growth of one of the schools that I'm at, I'm now at only one of the schools for the upcoming years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the school I've been completing my artifacts on. And so for electronic evidence 6, I've already completed part C on the school that I'm no longer at.
Right. So where do you go now? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But part C is the TWC data, right? The teacher working condition stuff?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Whereas it may be best to either go back and do the total SIAP at your old school. Probably makes more sense to go forward and do SIAP at your new school. Are you leaning one way or the other?
I can probably still get the data from my old school. He would probably share that with me.
Okay. What I like to see as an internship supervisor, Matt, is that someone understands the process of school improvement and demonstrates that with the SIAP. Not everybody has access to the data that the school improvement team does. So this project kind of forces you onto the team or to get the same kind of data and go through the same process that they do, which is an annual or a 2-year cycle of continuous improvement. Analyzing the data, looking at root causes, setting goals based on subgroups. You know, we're going to help African American males do better on algebra EOCs or whatever it might be. And then monitoring the progress and tracking that data. Whether you do it at your old school or your new school, it doesn't matter to me. Now, it might to your internship supervisor. So I would ask him or her the same question. You know, do you want me to finish with my old school or work at the new one? But it wouldn't be a deal breaker to me that you had already begun C and already did C at the old school and needed to switch. That's not a clear answer, Matt, but check with your internship supervisor and whatever he or she suggests. Many people switch schools and wind up switching in the middle of projects. It's not the end of the world. Again, show me that you understand the process.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, I'm not going to check personally to see that SIAP A and B match SIAP C. Your supervisor probably knows the difference. And in general, you asked about it, but let me say to the whole group, again, SIAP is a school improvement project. Well, it's not asking you to go do be your own school improvement leadership team. Work with others and use the plan that's at your school. I would work backwards from the existing or current plan and look at what data did they analyze, including the TWC data. How did they come up with a focus group to say, well, these are 20 things that need to be fixed at my school, but we're going to focus on these 3 to try to get better in the next year. And we're going to put these resources there. And then, anyway, I would work backwards on the SIAP. What is our school improvement leadership team? What is our plan? And where did the data come from? Really confused you, Matt. I didn't answer your question, really. Old school or new school, doesn't matter.
All right, thank you.
All right. Show me you understand the data and how to analyze it. Who's next? Was there another just generic question? I forget what I was saying.
I'll give you. I've got one.
Jack.
When you talked about the peer reviews,
Yeah.
on the last video you sent, I think you said 1 would suffice.
Jack, I really don't care so much about the video peer feedback. I'm sorry. Dr. Neal wanted you to do them, and y'all were you in particular were really good about doing them. I do like the formative feedback process, and y'all will fill out the form, and you've already completed 1 Zoom session back and forth. I do not require more than that for.
Well, I'm talking not the Zooms, but just the peers, the peer forms.
Yes, I would like you to provide feedback to at least one other person on your, and work with those teams of people, please.
Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Again, what I'm hoping happens with that formative feedback is that your peers catch the glaring stuff that would prevent you from being proficient and point you toward making some changes such that when it's submitted to me for a grade, they're all proficient. Mastery is what I would like to see all of you. That's the goal that I have for all of y'all, is mastery, which is at least proficient. Sometimes y'all knock it out of the park and it's accomplished, number 4, but proficient is my goal in the MELS program. Not sure if I've used this analogy before, but like your driver's license, folks, the Masters in Executive Leadership Studies license on your professional teaching license for North Carolina, at least, is you either pass or you don't. There's not an accomplished, unfortunately. So you have the opportunity to be proficient and move on, and that's my suggestion. Tammy, did you want to weigh in, or do you have a question?
No, I'm just listening right now.
Okay. All right.
They've asked a lot of questions that I had on my mind, so I appreciate them asking.
Well, I guess we maybe should have done this before, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to see y'all and try to address some of your questions. And is Mr. Peoples driving down the road?
Looks like it.
I think so.
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, more power to you, sir. Do you have any questions that I can answer?
No, sir. Like Tammy stated earlier, you guys pretty much answered all my questions that I had.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great meeting here that we're having, and I definitely appreciate it.
All right.
Rocking and rolling.
And Mr. Peoples is rolling down the road. I wanted to show y'all something else. Again, this is this week's discussion, but this is, okay. I was a practicing principal for 12 years. I didn't do a whole bunch of research and reading during my days as a principal, but I did read things that came from my district. And I do want you to think in terms of program evaluations about the many programs that come and go in public schools. It seems with every change in leadership in central office, every new superintendent, there seems to be, needs to be a new program. Well, in Wake, a few years back, something was created called the Academic Achievement Academy, 3As, and a bunch of money, $649,000, $478 per student expended from DSSF fund, 210 teachers. Anyway, do we evaluate those kinds of programs and ask, are they meeting their goals, doing what they're supposed to do? This is the kind of research that I appreciated as a principal. Things that were short and brief and that I could read in a few minutes and would tell me whether this was going to be a good program that I would try to have at my school or not. So it's a mixed methods research. There's numbers and words. They asked key questions and look at the data sources that they're using. Same kinds of data sources that you're looking at to try to determine proficiency at your school, EOG changes. They're looking at the documents. They're interviewing folks, qualitative. Yeah, so anyway, you're reading a lot. You're reading the textbooks, but what I hope that you're gleaning from some of the reading about research is how to be a good practitioner and how to be a good consumer of research. This is the kind of research document that I hope you are able to read and to digest and then to answer some questions about. So that's, whereas I hope that you're reading the books and gaining and gleaning something that will be helpful to you in your leadership. This is the kind of real practical consumer approach to research that I tried to apply as a principal and that I think you'll need. I see that many of you are aspiring assistant principals or principals. So reading enough research and understanding it well enough that you can make good decisions in school about the programs that you want to keep or get rid of. Anyway, take a look at this 8-page report, and then I think I asked you to do a yeah, there's a
Hey, the PowerPoints that you attached for this week.
yeah.
Could you open the first one real quick? I want to see if
This one on experimental research?
Yeah.
These are old from a previous edition of a book that was used to teach this course a while back. Let's see what it says.
Because when I open it, the background, I can barely read them. Yeah. My background that's popping up is like a forest scene, and I can't read anything. Like everything's blacked out when I open them up.
Oh gosh.
I just wanted to see if yours was opening it up. Like that's completely different than
That's what mine looked like.
Well, here's again what I'll tell you. Was that Scott or no?
Yeah, that's Scott.
Scott. Again, experimental research. I don't expect you to be doing any of this stuff, Scott. Understanding what it is so that you could read research and understand it. Yeah, but there's a real good reason we don't do experimental research with kids. It's unethical. It's not right. If something is really good, you wouldn't want to deny a kid that. For instance, experimental research might be where we'd have a control group and they don't get a treatment, and then we give another group the treatment. We give them a remediation. Well, if both kids need the remediation, you wouldn't want to have a control group that doesn't get it because it's unethical. So again, in terms of, if you were a doctoral student, I would want you to understand experimental research. But as master's students, I think we need to re-examine some of this curriculum, and that's way too deep.
Yeah, the readings are pretty deep. Okay.
If you can apply the stuff about mixed methods research right here, chapter 17, that's what that 8-page AAA article is, mixed methods research. And if you can understand that and apply it to the worksheet with 4 or 5 questions that I've asked, then you're in good shape and understanding enough research to go be a principal.
Cool.
Okay. And then action research is what y'all do all the time. That is the annual or 2-year process of continuous improvement where you decide, African American males are failing algebra. Well, we're going to try a same-sex algebra class in our high school. We're going to have all the boys together. We're going to group all the girls together and see if the boys learn better together. You try it and you look at the results at the end of the year. That's action research, and that's going on in a lot of your schools. Maybe not as dramatic as gender groupings, but you hire additional staff. You give kids remediation. You pull them into you pull them out for enrichment or remediation. That's action research. You're trying something new to see if it gets a result. So again, that's as much of this stuff as you really need to understand. And God bless you. Why we're asking you to read all that stuff, I don't know. Sorry.
So coming from a science background, if we don't see the independent variables and the controls, we shouldn't get in a tizzy.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's been bothering me for days.
No.
So in other words, I can read the first paragraph and I don't understand that, I can scan the rest.
I'm not sure I should say that since I'm recording, Tammy, but yes.
I read it, I really do, and I try very, very hard to understand, but I just cannot grasp it at all. It needs to be in plainer language for me to understand it.
And I'm going to take that feedback to Dr. Neal. I didn't get to choose these books, but I think we definitely need to bring it down a notch for practicing administrators. It's way too much depth in terms of the research. I think it's more geared to doctoral students, to be honest.
Well, can I ask a question about, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
On the AAA paper.
Yeah.
So if I don't see the numbers, but they say that, they talk about the scores.
Yeah, they didn't report a whole lot of the data. You're right.
So don't make a big deal about that? Or
Now,
put that in the paper.
Go to the worksheet. I think I asked some really simple questions there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really good feedback or questions that you want to ask. Why didn't they present more of the data? It was, I think they were doing the evaluation after 1 year, and the program was supposed to run 3 years or something like that. They've ditched it now, which is kind of interesting. But
Well, that's what okay.
Don't need that much depth, but way to pick up on that. Yes, they did not present a lot of data. Not a lot of the numbers. Well, it's a summary. It's a kind of an executive summary.
Okay, when you were principal and these new programs came in, Wake County has lots of schools. Could you pick and choose as principal which ones you wanted to do, or was it mandated?
Yeah, good question, Tammy. Yes and yes. Some of them are mandated. Some of them I would have choice. In some, I had to step up and assert myself and say, we're already doing 13 things. We can't add that one more. And in some cases, I had a choice. In some, I did not. I will tell you too. There were some instances as a principal where I asked permission. There were some instances where I begged forgiveness. And if I thought I could get away with leaving overworked teachers alone and begging forgiveness later for ignoring a program, I would. Sometimes.
Okay.
I knew just about how stressed my teachers were and what they could take. And some things came down from the central office as a dictate. Some came as an option.
Okay.
Good question, though. You're hep to the politics of this stuff. Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really struggling with is because I'm still a teacher, but then when you move into administration, you can't always think like a teacher.
Right.
And it's really hard for me to stop thinking like a teacher and start thinking like that administrator who's going to tell these teachers that, I'm sorry, we're going to work together, but they're telling us it has to be done. We complain. You know how teachers complain anyway. But, you know, it's like I'm pulled in two, you know, I know what they're thinking and I want to give them a break. You know, sometimes my brother's a preacher and I always tell him, don't forget where you came from. And it seems like when administrators move up there, they forget where they came from. They forgot that they were teachers first,
Mm-hmm.
and they get this big head. I mean, I'm probably saying things I shouldn't, but they get this big head, and they just don't forget about how much a teacher has to go through. So, you know, especially when I'm writing these narratives, I have to go back and edit, because when I reread it, you can tell that I am a teacher and I am not the administrator.
Well, bless you. You've put your finger on part of the quandary as rising administrators. Don't forget where you came from, and
Exactly.
do keep the teacher's attitude. Now, I see that I scheduled this meeting for an hour, and that I'm going to run out of time in a minute and a half. I can stop this meeting and restart another one. I think that's one option here. The other is to take your questions and try to respond to them. What do y'all want? You
I'm
enjoy
fine.
this? Want to keep talking?
No, I'm fine. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm good. Will this be done again next week?
If you want it, I will schedule it. What about what works about the time? Monday, Tuesday, evening? This a good time?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm fine.
Mondays are generally my grading day, and make the new video. So I'll schedule another session for next Tuesday night.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks to all of you who weighed in, and I
Thanks,
hope
Doc.
cleared up some questions.
Thank you.
Okay.